Went to school for 12 years at Graham. Went to school in Oakland City, Indiana for one day. And my sister, that was her, I think it was her 12th year in school. I believe that's the way it was. And I did all right my first day, but she was called into principal's office or something or another and said, I'm going to put you back a year. And she wanted to know why. And they said, well, it's just a policy. And she said, I ain't going to go back a year. That's a year wasted. And the man said, well, you got to. So she come home crying in Pappy's ear. And he said, pack your clothes. So we come back to Graham for that reason. So she wouldn't have to be put back a year. So her senior year was with the rest of the kids that she knew there at Graham. But that's my one day away from Graham in 12 years. But Graham was okay. It was little, and we had 23, I believe it was, that graduated with me. So every class was small. They finally shut it down. We liked it that way, being small, but I guess the county don't like it that way. Maybe they save money if they put everybody together. I don't know what the problem is or what the advantage is. I'd rather, if I went to school now, I'd rather have a smaller class. I talked to Larry Stewart years ago. It was his graduation year. And I asked him, I said, how many's in your class? He said, 300 something is going to Evansville. I said, I couldn't do it because I wouldn't know them. Everybody in my class I knew, but for 300 people. You couldn't. If you get used to something like that, I guess it's okay. It's just normal to have that many kids around you. But I was country and I wanted to stay that way. Because out of that 23, I think we still got about 20 left. That was a long time ago. Had a few to die out on us. Probably a half a dozen of them I've never seen since we graduated. Don't have no idea where they're at. But then that's their life, what they want to do. Yeah. 1957.
Class of 57.
Yeah. Statler Brothers had a song about it.
Class of 57 had its dream.
57 had its dream. And it did. Everybody had their idea of what they wanted. A few of them in college, a few of them want to get out and just hang out and get away from school. That was the biggest thing. Get away from school. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to get away from school. That was probably the idea of a lot of people. It was mine. I was glad to go. And walked down the hallway. I never will forget that. After graduation, I looked up. We graduated in the little gym and the high school right there next to it. And I went over to the school and walked down one of the hallways, and there wasn't a soul in it. And stand there by myself, and I said, I am going to miss this place. I am going to miss it. And I did. It's just something you train for all your life. You're going to go to school when you get old enough. And you do, and that's your life for 12 years probably.
Mm-hmm.
But so I missed it. It was a thing that I missed. A lot of people didn't, but I did. I missed it. I got out and got a job. No, I didn't. I graduated on May 7th. and went in the Army on June 10th of that same year. So I didn't have no just a small vacation. I went in the Army after that. I was a mechanic, uh, wheel and track mechanic. So I handled the big trucks and the tanks and all that kind of stuff. And it was enjoyable. I enjoyed it. When you're that age, you like messing around with automobiles and things, so felt like it was right at home. I spent my entire term at Fort Knox, and it's a good camp to be at. I wanted their gold out of the vault. I wanted to go out there and go and look at it, but they wouldn't let me. I drove up there one day in front of there's a gate you stop at, a big gate with the telephone, microphone, everything there. And the voice comes on there automatically. What do you want? And the big building sitting up there on the hill. And I pulled up there, me and another fella. He said, let's go see the gold. I said, all right, we wheeled in there, like an idiot. I said, we want to see the gold. And about half a dozen people, you could hear them laughing on the other end. They say, well, go away. That's the closest I got to it. They wouldn't let us see it. A friend that died shortly after we joined, we talked about it for a while, and we decided to join the reserves in Madisonville. So we joined, and it wasn't a month till he died. Never did figure out what killed him, but he died anyway. And I said, well, I'm by myself now in the reserves unit. But another friend came up and he said, you join the reserves? I said, yeah. He said, can I do that? I said, sure you can. So he joined the reserves. And 27 years later, he got out. He stayed there. And I really, Army was okay, but it just wasn't for me. And I was a reservist, but I stayed in the regular Army for a while. And just to feel what it was like, and I did the same thing as regular Army. And I didn't want to be there. The whole truth of the matter, I enjoyed what I was doing, but I didn't want to be there. I never did want to be around a person, a boss, more or less, that I couldn't talk back to if I wanted to. I never did. That was in my mind. It's been there all my life. If you're my boss and I can't talk back to you, if I know that if I say anything to you, I'll get put in jail or shot or something, then I don't want to be around you. But if I can argue with you, everything's fine. In the Army, that's not that way. You don't argue with somebody tells you what to do. You do it. Keep your mouth shut and go on and do it. I never did like that attitude. Would you?